Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. This is Pamela, and this is Celebrity Legal News Update. 2 years. 2 years ago, Blake Lively filed a SH lawsuit against Justin Baldoni, the Wayfarer production team, and the It End With Us team for harassment. She also sued Justin Baldoni and a couple of PR firms, saying that they defamed her. Justin Baldoni gets a uh, hit piece written down him by the New York Times. He then files a defamation lawsuit against the New York Times. It goes on and on and on. You have people's careers that are stalled for 2 years. You have content creators whose careers have risen and some of them have possibly stagnated because of this case. You've had Blake Lively go after YouTubers, TikTok content creators, and the like, because she felt like there was this big, huge campaign against her and her reputation. We had 2 years of that. We have had 2 years of legal filing after legal filing after legal filing. To over a month ago, the judge dismissed Justin Baldoni from the lawsuit, stating that there was no sexual harassment and that Blake Lively's that he dismissed 10 out of the 13 actions in her lawsuit, which only led to 3. And there was supposed to be a court hearing within 2 weeks. But with the majority of this case gutted, she tried very quietly today. It was announced on May the 4th that a settlement had been reached. Y'all, this was the craziest case. And shout out to all of my mutuals on TikTok, all of my mutuals on YouTube, because I followed this case at the front, but it got to be too extensive. And the filings after the filings, it just got to be too extensive for me and what I was trying to do with my channel. So shout out to CJ and all of you all that have followed this case to its current conclusion. I know that you all were trying to get up to New York to be in the courtroom, but child, Blake said she had to make the Met Gala this year, so she needed all of that to be behind her. Because, honey, she scurried on the carpet of the Met Gala last night. And I'll be reviewing the fashions probably a little bit later this week. But I wanted to get this talked about, and we go over it. All right. So I have a TikTok and I have an article to review. This is going to be quick.
Legal war ends with a settlement. Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni's production company have now ended nearly 2 years of feuding. The two sides have resolved their differences weeks ahead of a federal trial. Lively accused Baldoni of sexual harassment during the production of the 2024 movie It Ends With Us, which he directed. Baldoni denied her claims. In a joint statement, both parties say they want to move forward constructively and in peace. Highly publicized Hollywood legal war ends with a settlement.
There would be no peace Not if I had anything to do with it. There would be no peace. There would be no peace. You hear me? Let's review this Variety article real quick, y'all. Give me one moment. There would be no peace, y'all. Because she put that man through everything. And shout out to Justin Baldoni's lawyer. Shout out to them getting that information when they sued the New York Times, because they gave such a clear and concise brief and pulled all the evidence, not like Blake Lively's team, who was cherry picking the evidence. They dumped all that evidence out there for good, bad, or indifferent. And from that evidence, it was clear from the start that there was other shenanigans and things like that going on, meaning that, and this is alleged, and this is my opinion, I haven't reviewed anything if it's been found true, but it seems to me that Blake Lively was trying to take over the production, and she was trying to get this production, get the rights and everything that Justin Baldoni had for this movie and Wayfair Studios. And her husband were going to take over the franchise. But that didn't work, because we learned a lot of stuff in regards to this case about Ryan Reynolds writing some of the script for this movie. We learned way too much about what the underseated and the under things going on. And we learned that, and this is my opinion as well, that Blake Lively is a liar. She's spoiled. And anything that she could do to try to take over someone else's production, she will do it. She said it. She said it in different interviews. She's even spoken, no one knew that she had taken the script and her husband had written it. Then she was trying to make money from the off the movie with her liquor brand, with all of these little different things. So she was, in essence, again, she looked at Justice Baldoni as a mark, and ended up she was the one targeted. Let's get into this Variety article. Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni settle. Epic It Ends With Us lawsuit is written by Gene Mattis. It ends with a settlement. After a year and a half of bitter feuding in court and in the press, Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni have resolved their legal differences 2 weeks ahead of a federal trial. Lively had accused Baldoni, her director and co-star, of SH on the set of their 2024 film, It Ends With Us. She's also alleged that when she raised complaints about it, he and his army of publicists engaged in a digital smear campaign to retaliate. In a carefully crafted joint statement released Monday, the parties expressed their feelings about moving on. The end product, the movie It Ends With Us, is a source of pride to all of us who work to bring it to life. Raising awareness and making a meaningful impact in the lives of domestic violence survivors and all survivors is the goal that we stand behind. We acknowledge the process presented challenge, recognize concerns raised by Ms. Lively deserves to be heard. We remain firmly committed to workplace-free improprieties and unproductive environments. It is our sincere hope that this brings closure and allows all involved to move forward constructively and in a pace, including a respectful environment online. So probably the insurance that the movie had paid the claims and probably paid the lawyers as well. The settlement comes about a month after Judge Lewis Lyman threw out 10 of Lively's 13 civil complaints, including all claims for harassment. The ruling left 3 claims: retaliation, aiding and abetting retaliation, and breach of contract to be decided by a jury. At the time, Lively's attorney said she looked forward to telling her story on the witness stands, but the attorney, Sigrid McCrawley, also seemed to telegraph that a settlement was a real possibility, suggesting that Lively had already achieved her goals by exposing the smear machine at the heart of the case. And y'all, I don't know whether or not that they would have been able to prove a smear campaign. It was clear to see that the audience did not resonate with Blake Lively. Did they resonate with the movie? Yes, they did, because that cachet was coming from the author, Colleen Hoover, who wrote the book. But the audience did not resonate with Blake Lively, and they mentioned some things. And then Blake Lively was doing some low down dirty shame things, like refusing to do press for the film with Justin and his family, regulating them to the basement. It was to the point that the people who were invited to the premiere spoke out about it. I remember Bethel Frankel spoke out about how the air seemed different. Lively herself took to Instagram to claim a measure of victory at the time. The last thing I wanted in my life was a lawsuit, but I bought this case because of the pervasive retaliation I face and continue to for privately and professionally asking for a safe working environment for myself and others, she wrote. I hope the court's decision shows that others that, as unfathomable, painful as it is, you can speak up. And we'll just let her live on that one. We'll let her live on that. Because the aftermath from all of this is a lot of people's reputations. Now, there are some of the one thing for me that this highlighted was the role of a publicist and what liability that a publicist has to protect their client, and how, what's that thin line of protecting their client and going overboard. And so this was a very interesting watershed moment for those in the publicity business, because you had to make the keen awareness, you had to have the keen awareness that your contract wasn't going to ever protect you from a lawsuit. So I believe going forward that a lot of these publications and publicists are going to get a little bit more expensive, because they're going to have this this insurance for lawsuits. So Lively began the legal war in December 2024, filing an administrative complaint with the California Civil Rights Department. Give me 1 second. At nearly the same time, the New York Times published a lengthy article exposing text messages from Baldoni's publicist. Now, remember, I told you all of this was working in concert with Blake Lively suing, because Blake Lively's best friend Taylor Swift knew a guy over at the New York Times. So she hired one of the publicists, and she hired a publicist, and one of her publicists that she hired used to work for Baldoni and the Wayfair group. That particular publicist, her phone, according to them, was confiscated. Somehow, some way, it got over to Blake Lively's team, and this is how she was able to leak these text messages to the New York Times. What people didn't realize at the time is that she cherry-picked these text messages, and she didn't release the full context of these text messages. And so, like I said, shout out to Justin Baldoni's lawyer, shout out to Justin Baldoni's team. They released a complete copy and gave a clear picture about what was going on. Were the publicists going back and forth, working for their client? Absolutely. Were there some things said that possibly shouldn't have been said? Absolutely. But it wasn't to the extent that she had. I am curious about how reputations are going to move going forward. Because I told y'all earlier, I did a 2-hour live stream on the Met Gala, and I'll be going over the fashions with that. But Blake Lively rolled up in there, and she was talking to Lala Anthony, and she was acting like nothing was happening. She was trying to look like she was trying to sell something there too. She had a little box or a purse or something, but she rolled in there by herself. Her husband, usually her and her husband would be there together, but she rolled in there by herself. She looked a little disheveled. She looked a little wild in the eyes, in my opinion. But she rolled in, she went in, and that was it. Baldoni responded with a lengthy defamation lawsuit in federal court. Go over that, alleging that Lively had in fact destroyed his reputation with false allegation. His defamation suit was thrown out early in the stages as the judge ruled that Lively and the Times were both protected by privileges covering litigation and reporting on litigation. After more than a year of extensive discovery and bitter legal fighting, most of Lively's claims were thrown out, mostly on technical grounds instead of merits. Lively was found to be an independent contractor, not an employee, meaning she could not sue for harassment under federal law. And, since filming took place in New Jersey, she could not file this harassment under California harassment statute. All right. So that is the end of that. This is an end of an era, an end of an age. What do y'all think? Are y'all happy that this is over? I know my friends, my fellow YouTubers were looking forward to going up to New York. I know they were, but that is not what is going to happen. Blake Lively settled with Wayfair and the last two with a settlement agreement today. All right, people. All right, we do this every week. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video if you care. Y'all, what do y'all think about this settlement? Should this have been reached at an earlier date? Should the lawsuits been filed at all? Y'all let me know down in the comments. All right. Please tell a friend, tell a kin, tell a coworker, tell that heifer that you can't stand that I'm over here making these videos. And as always, people, bye-bye.